Today we're going to be working on a 2001 Toyota Highlander. And for those of you who are not aware, the Highlander, 2001 is the first year they made the Highlander. It uses the 1MZ FE engine, which is the same engine as the Camry, but this is in a four-wheel drive setup. Today we're going to be diagnosing a cylinder misfire. Alright, so the story goes, I was driving to work, this is my personal vehicle, and started getting some really bad shaking. So I was lucky enough to have one of these. You can buy these on Amazon for pretty cheap, less than $20 in most cases. I will link that in the description below. If it's not this exact one, it'll be one that is identical to it. You plug it into the OBD2 port, and there is an app you can download on your phone, and you can read codes. So I read the code, and we got a P0304, which is a misfire in the fourth cylinder. So we are going to be diagnosing that today, and I'll show you how. Alright, now when you first open the hood, this is what you'll be greeted with. So the first thing we got to do is take off this engine cover, and that is really simple. On these engines, there is this Toyota symbol is actually a screw. So we'll unscrew that all the way, and then we have got three, and we'll see if we can focus on that, three of these Allen wrench screws. So we'll get those out and we'll get on our way. Alright, the next step is going to be undoing this screw, and we'll have to take the wiring harness off as well. The wiring harness just clips, so we can unclip it and get it off very, very easily. Alright, so we got that out. The first step is to diagnose if it actually is the ignition coil that has gone bad. So to do that, we're going to put the suspected bad ignition coil into a different cylinder and see if the trouble code changes to a different cylinder. If it does, we'll know that it's the ignition coil. Otherwise, we will keep diagnosing. Alright, so we have now switched the suspected bad coil onto this cylinder right here, and the one that was there is now on cylinder 4. So we'll start the engine. If our trouble code changes to this cylinder, then we'll know that it's the ignition coil. If not, we'll keep looking. We changed the ignition coil, started the engine, and sure enough the code changed. It's now saying cylinder 2 is misfiring. So we now know that the ignition coil is the culprit here. So we'll get that changed out, and we should be able to get all of those codes to disappear. Alright, so we know that it is the ignition coil that's gone bad, but in the event that it was not the ignition coil, the next thing that we probably would have checked is the wiring harnesses themselves. And then we could have, it may be difficult to see, but go for the spark plugs next. So, but in this case we got lucky. It's just the ignition coil, so we'll get that fixed and we'll be up and running. Alright, now one thing that I recommend doing always, this is always a good idea, is check your old part and compare it with the new part. So you can see that these are both, they look the same, we want to make sure that they all the dimensions match. They have the same pattern for the wire hookup, so these look good. That's a fantastic thing. If they did look different, then we would obviously want to return the part and make sure we get the proper one, or it's just not going to work. Alright, so we're going to hook up the new part. That clips on, just like that. The new coil goes down just like that. tighten it down. Now we want it to be tight enough that it's not going to come loose, but we don't need to over tighten it. It's not. The chances of it coming loose aren't that great, so you don't have to over tighten it. Just get it snug, and then we will test the engine and see if we can get rid of that trouble code. Okay, so I reset the codes, ran the engine for a minute, and scanned again, and it found no codes at all. That's fantastic. So we're going to consider this a job well done. Everything's running smoothly, and the engine felt better. You could just tell that it was running a lot smoother. So that is how to diagnose and change an ignition coil.